Let's welcome back in Brady Quinn, Danny Kanell here. So we're going to talk about where the Steelers should turn to the future for a quarterback. I feel like I know Brady's answer. So Danny, I'm actually going to start with you on this one.
Well, I think they have one of two options. Clearly, they can do it through the draft, and I think Brady and I would probably agree that if they go that route, that Kenny Pickett is the answer there. If they decide to go free agency and they pass on that, there are some really good options out there of guys they could turn to potentially. And this quarterback class, free agency could be wild because we still don't know the future of some guys like Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, several others, where this market could get wild. But there's two guys that I would pin. Now, I think they're the two top quarterbacks in the free agent class, and it's Jameis Winston and Teddy Bridgewater. And if I was looking at those two, I would lean on Jameis Winston, who possibly could be the replacement for Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, if you put the right pieces around him, I do think he's gotten better. He's matured. He kind of had this period in New Orleans where you could kind of catch his breath and come back, and he was eliminating some of those interceptions when he came back, and he's coming back off the ACL, so you wouldn't have to invest and commit to him for a really lengthy, expensive contract. Teddy Bridgewater, from kind of what you're hearing, is that he's looking for a bigger deal. I don't know if that's money well spent. So if I was the Steelers, I'd either build around a young quarterback in Kenny Pickett, spend all that money that you saved by drafting a quarterback, or go after a guy like Jameis Winston in the free agent market.
Just go get Kenny Pickett. Come on, let's do this thing. Let's keep him in Pittsburgh. His play resembles Big Ben, especially when he first came into the NFL with his mobility and down-the-field throws that you'll see from him. So I hope they go this route. It makes a lot of sense. The problem is, with where the Pittsburgh Steelers are drafting from, I don't think he's going to be there then. Now, again, that's just my opinion. Who knows? Everyone keeps talking about how, at least in NFL front offices, that this is not a great year for drafting a quarterback. So maybe you'll see some of these guys slide. Maybe people don't view Kenny Pickett as highly as I do, so maybe he will be there. If we're going to go the free agent route, I just don't know if it's really worth the value. I think you've got a couple guys there, obviously in Mason Rudolph, who's currently on the team, and even Dwayne Haskins, that have at least played a little bit of football, that are going to have more continuity with the offense, more chemistry with the guys that they're throwing to on this team right now, that understand the culture and the system. I think unless you're going to take a swing at the fences and try to trade for Deshaun Watson, trade for Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, maybe even Kirk Cousins, who's going to be going into the final year of his deal, and with a new general manager, new head coach up there in Minnesota, maybe they want to move on and want a fresh start too. So there's a number of players that I think, yeah, they're under contract, but that doesn't mean you can't trade away some assets and bring them on the Pittsburgh Steelers. It really comes down to how they feel about this quarterback draft class, in my opinion, and if they can't find a way of maneuvering to get Kenny Pickett and keeping him in Pittsburgh.
And we're going to compare some of the top quarterbacks in this class, but would you feel comfortable starting Kenny Pickett next season? You're fine. You're all in.
He's older. He's played a lot of college football. He's familiar with the confines. One of the things that we tend to overlook sometimes when these kids get drafted and rookies is you're uprooting your entire life. Like, what makes the draft so entertaining is you're finding out with everyone else where you're going to go live for the next however many years of your life as you play in the NFL. For Kenny Pickett, he practices in the same facility that the University of Pittsburgh uses as the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's not going to have to move. Now, he may be upgrading his apartment and where he's choosing to live there, but for the most part, he's not going to have to worry about that portion of things. And I'm sure this organization is very familiar with him, given everything he was able to accomplish this year for Pittsburgh.
Let's look at some free agents there. Danny, when it comes to quarterbacks and free agency, is there anybody you have an eye on?
Yeah, for sure. By the way, Brady was talking about as a rookie, I lived in a hotel for 2 months. Like, it's a wild time. You're just trying to, and it's like a whirlwind. But if you're settled in a place, I agree with him on that one. Free agent quarterbacks, I talked about him before. I think it's Jameis Winston. I think he's the best option available in this class that's a true free agent that you go get. He's only 27 years old, and we are talking about the former number 1 overall pick. And the best part about him is coming off this ACL injury, he'll be healthy because he'll have enough time to heal, but you won't have to break the bank for him. You could even do a shorter-term deal, let him bet on himself, and then you get an extended audition period for him. So he's still got the upside to me. His intangibles, too, are off the charts. I know he's been criticized, and he's a player that's, a little bit weird and gets made fun of on Twitter sometimes, but there's no doubt he's a hard worker. He gets the facility early, and I do think his teammates love playing for him, which does matter. So Jameis Winston would be the number 1 target for me to look at in the free agent market.
I'm right there with you, Danny. I think it makes all the sense in the world. He's a former number 1 overall pick for a reason. He's got that sort of talent and ability, and I think when you look at some of the improvements he made during his time with Sean Payton and the New Orleans Saints, their season probably went a completely different direction if he could have stayed healthy, which is one of the reasons why I feel like maybe you should just try to sign back with the New Orleans Saints. It'd probably be better for all parties involved. And it would help the Saints avoid having to pay Taysom Hill the additional monies he'd be owed if he actually played more snaps at quarterback, considering the contract he signed during this past season. But you can see the rankings there. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater, to me, I think is steady. But the problem is, at this point in time in his career, most organizations have a pretty good sense of what he is and what he's not. And that means even if you bring him in, he's going to be a player that you look at and say, yeah, but. And you're going to be looking at trying to find someone in to groom in behind him. And so it's only a year to maybe 2 years. But look, he was a 500 win-loss starter for the Denver Broncos this year. Of all those guys they played, I thought he gave them the best chance to win. And so you can see some of the frustration that Vic Fangio had, now no longer their head coach. Then Tyrod Taylor, then Mitchell Trubisky. I mean, bottom line is, Mitchell Trubisky's played a lot of football. He's now sat up there in Buffalo. He's watched one of the best do it in Josh Allen, and he's seen Brian Daboll and how he goes about game planning, orchestrating who might become a head coach at one of these vacancies. And so maybe there's a sense that he brings Mitchell Trubisky along with him to give him at least a quarterback there who understands his system and understands his coaching methods and still has some upside, in my opinion.
I like the argument, though, however, about the quarterbacks in the draft. So we're just going to bump ahead and tease that because that's what's coming up next. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.